Hi, I'm Lisa, your host for episode 55 of the GrowCast show, and today I'm here with Jonathan Lim.
Hi.
Hi, Jonathan. Welcome to the GrowCast show. So I have a couple of questions for you today. What does being better than normal mean to you?
What does being better than normal mean to me is basically to continuously exceed expectation, to keep setting new standards for myself, and to consistently redefine every aspect of my life so that I can be better and do better.
That's amazing. And what makes you better than normal?
What makes me better than normal, I guess, is my ongoing commitment to learning and evolving. I take every challenge and opportunity that I face as a chance to improve myself and to refine my skills so that I can improve everything that I do and achieve extraordinary results.
I have a question. What inspired you to change from IT sales after 20 years to real estate?
Basically, I just wanted something more fulfilling and to really make a difference in people's lives. So just imagine helping someone buy their very first home, or helping a family with a newborn plan for their future. I think the gratitude which I get moving forward really makes it all worthwhile.
How did your experience in IT sales prepare you for a career in real estate?
I mean, sales is just sales, right? Whether you're IT or any other industry. But I guess what I learned in IT is to actually have a clear and structured approach in problem solving, and also to have a strong focus in customer satisfaction. I think this is the same professionalism which I will bring to my real estate business when I deal with people, to make sure that every transaction is handled with utmost care and attention to detail so that everything is smooth for the client moving forward. Yeah.
Can you share a defining moment when you realized that you wanted to make the switch to real estate?
Okay, a defining moment was when it was one of my earlier transactions where I was actually helping a friend who was going through a divorce sell their home. So I think it was a really challenging time for them. And I think the challenge for me was actually keeping both parties happy, and at the same time making sure that neither parties felt shortchanged. So basically, to cut the story short, I managed to get their property sold. Both were happy. I think they were also relieved that they are able to move on to the next chapter of their life. So I really felt that I could really be a part of these life-changing moments for people that I'm helping, and also to help them navigate the challenging situations in their life.
How has your approach to real estate been influenced by your years in the corporate world?
How has my approach? Okay, so basically, I think I mentioned earlier, I think having a clear and structured approach is really important, especially when you are dealing with a product that you are purchasing, which would likely be your most expensive purchase in your life. So having that clear and step-by-step approach, I think gives people the confidence that they are doing the right thing and they're not making mistakes. And I think the trust that they put in me to guide them through this journey is something that I feel that is really helpful to them. Yeah.
So is that what excites you the most about helping people achieve their goals and their dreams?
Yeah. What excites me is, like I mentioned, to be part of their life-changing moment.
Yeah.
And I think I love knowing that I was there to help them achieve what they wanted. Whether it's for a first-time buyer looking for their first property, or an investor who is buying their next property. So I guess being a part of this journey with them really makes me feel it's worthwhile. Yeah.
Is your job in danger with the new resale flat listing portal launched by HDB?
I wouldn't say it's in danger. Okay, so basically the new initiative from HDB, which launched in May for this HDB resale flat portal, gives an opportunity for HDB owners to actually sell their properties on their own.
Oh,
yeah. So I think this portal itself basically gives them access to accurate details of their their property, and also a trusted avenue to list their unit for sale. But the job of a real estate agent like myself doesn't just end at listing a property for sale, right? It starts from the beginning. That means understanding why you really want to sell the property, what are your plans moving forward for the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we do a lot of market research, market analysis. We guide the client on how to make their homes look better before the sale. We do all the paperwork. We plan the viewings. We filter the prospective buyers, things like that. So I think we do so much more compared to just listing the property. And I really feel that why risk your most expensive asset by just choosing one option when you can have both?
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you spend like your whole time dedicating yourself to all the market research, so you definitely have more knowledge than somebody who is just listing it on their own or doing it on their own. Yeah.
Yep.
I have a question. So the common perception that people have is that it's always good to upgrade from a HDB to a private property. Would you agree with that?
I think that's the typical plan for most people, most HDB owners, that they want to move to a private condo after that. But I think what's really important is your lifestyle and your financial goals, or what you want in your life. Doesn't mean moving to a private condo is always the best option. So I think what's really important is probably to discuss what are your available options with a trusted agent, and then work out the financials to see which are the options which are more affordable for you. Yeah, moving forward. Yeah.
What should buyers consider when deciding between buying a new launch condo or a resale condo?
Okay, new launch versus resale. I think the first thing they should consider is do they need a place to stay immediately? So basically, if you need a place to stay immediately, you probably have to look at a resale because most new launch condos are still under construction. So you probably have to wait maybe 3 to 4 years before it's ready.
Right.
Yeah, so that's probably the first thing I will look into. Then the next thing will probably be location. If you probably want to stay near family, your friends, or maybe your kids going to school in a certain area, right? Doesn't mean they'll have a new launch development in that particular area. So you might have to consider the resale as well. But if let's say you're open to anything, I think resale is also a good choice, because I think most people like to buy new things. Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, so that kind of leads me to the next question. When you mentioned about children going to school, my next question is, what are the advantages of purchasing a property near a prestigious school? I think that's quite important to a lot of Singaporeans.
Yeah, I guess most parents would love to have their children attend a prestigious school, right?
Yeah.
And based on the current policy, you have a priority if you are staying nearer to a particular school.
Yeah.
So how does that affect the property in that area? Basically, property is about demand and supply. So if there's a lot of demand in a particular area, the value of the property basically has a stronger retention, or basically it can increase. Yeah, so I would say it's advantageous to buy a property in near a prestigious school, but ultimately not everyone has a chance to go into a prestigious school, right?
Right.
So if your kids need to study in any other school, buying a property nearby is always good as well, as it gives you convenience, both the parents and the kids convenience when they are attending school. Yeah.
But is it like a guarantee that you would get into the school if you get a property near?
No, you still have to go through the balloting process.
I see. Okay. Okay. What is the number one market myth that your clients have about property?
I think the number one myth I felt most people have is that Singapore property prices are going too high. It's going to form a bubble. It's going to crash. It's going to drop. So I just like to share one example, right? During COVID, I was actually marketing this 3-bedroom executive condo unit. So at that point of time, right, it was worth about $1 million. Yeah, so there was this particular family that were interested to purchase the unit, but after speaking to them, they told me, we feel the prices will drop because it's COVID. So we'll just wait a while, and when prices drop, then we'll get into the market. So fast forward to 2024, right? The same particular unit actually is now worth 1.6 million.
I see.
So I guess the government has basically done really well regulating the property market, right?
Yeah.
So most people that can afford to buy a property now basically can afford to hold a property. So that's why even in bad times, you don't see a lot of people being forced to sell their property. Yeah, and that's why prices for Singapore property is quite stable.
How does the cooling measures impact the property market, and what should buyers be aware of?
How does cooling measures? Okay, basically cooling measures are introduced to prevent the market from overheating. So let's say you are driving a car and you're speeding, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you're approaching a speed camera, what would you do? You probably slow down, right? So cooling measures is basically to slow down property prices. So I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. I think it opens up opportunities for buyers who are looking to come into the market as well. So when the prices slow down, it gives you an opportunity to purchase property, compared to when prices are going too fast. So I guess you still have to do your research, do your financial planning properly, and because buying a property is not something you can buy today and sell tomorrow. You probably need to hold it for at least 3 to 5 years. So a proper planning is always good to have.
Yeah. What are some key factors to consider when deciding between a BTO or a resale HDB? I think this is a common question that a lot of people have.
Yeah. So I think the main thing would be eligibility condition. So if you meet all the eligibility conditions to purchase a BTO, then by all means purchase a BTO. But if you can't, then definitely you have to look into alternative like resale HDB. So that's probably the number one consideration. The next thing I would say is same thing, location.
Yeah.
Location, if you need to stay near parents, schools, things like that, that particular BTO location may not be suitable for you. Yeah. Then lastly would probably be waiting time. Yeah. How long can you wait to move in? Yeah. So resale is like almost immediate.
Yes.
BTO, you probably have to wait a few years.
Yeah, that's true. With BTO, I know some couples that get together with BTO, but by the time they wait, they're not together anymore.
Yeah. So I've heard a lot of people who applied for BTO, then after that they also gave up due to waiting time.
Yeah. Fair. Okay, is renting out a property in Singapore as easy as it seems, or is it a lot more complex than people are aware of?
Renting out a property can be simple if you know what you're doing. I think what's really important is to get the agreement between the landlord and the tenant. Yeah, and I think to actually make it clear in terms of each party's responsibility and state it down clearly into the tenancy agreement. Of course, there will be minor disputes like aircon, appliance being spoiled, things like that. But I think the main challenge a landlord might face or might not have experience dealing with is maybe non-payment of rent. So what would you do if a tenant doesn't pay you rent? Or what can you do, right? So I ever spoke to a landlord before. He basically told me he had a tenant that didn't pay him rent for 6 months and he didn't know what to do. Yeah. So I guess working with a trusted agent basically gives you an avenue, or he'll be probably able to give you advice on what's your next recourse of action. Yeah. So instead of waiting for 6 months and losing that 6 months rental, right? What could you do immediately?
Yeah. What did you advise him to do then?
I think what we can do is probably, usually I tell my clients not to wait too long if the tenant doesn't pay. Let me know as soon as possible. I'll try to get in touch with the tenant, see how soon he can pay. If he really ignores us, then we'll probably have to look into the legal route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, 6 months is a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, what are the top 3 mistakes that first-time property buyers make?
What are the top 3 mistakes? I think the number one thing they should consider first is probably the manner of holding a property. So there are different ways of holding a property. It can be joint tenancy. It can be tenancy in common. And in terms of HDB case, it can be owner-occupier. So depending on the type of manner of holding, it'll probably affect how you purchase if you have planned to purchase a second property moving forward. Yeah, so I think you really need to plan that in advance so you can decide on how to hold the property properly. Yeah, the next thing I would thing is CPF usage. So how much CPF to use, whether you should use your CPF for mortgage payment. Do you understand enough about the accrued interest and how it will affect your sales proceeds when you sell your property? And I think what's really important is to understand how it will affect you if you are reaching 55 or you're above 55. Then I think the last thing is probably not having a proper plan. Like the real estate journey is really at least a 3 to 5 year plan. So if you didn't have a plan, you don't have a proper plan ahead, you maybe you over leverage, right? You probably get yourself into some financial situation over that period of time. Nice. So I think these are probably the key things that people should consider.
How important is it to understand the URA master plan when purchasing a property in Singapore?
Okay, the URA master plan is basically what the government is planning to develop in Singapore for the next 10 to 15 years. So I guess as a property buyer, right, this is something like a crystal ball into the next 10 to 15 years. So I think it's good for you to understand what's happening in the location that you're interested in, because future developments actually affect property price. So it may bring up the property price. So I think good to study the master plan.
How would you advise to navigate the current high interest rate market when purchasing a private property?
Okay, so interest rate is something that is beyond our control. So how interest rate works is interest rates usually go up when inflation goes up, and it comes down when inflation comes down. So there are a lot of strategies in how to mitigate a high interest rate environment. So for example, if I'm planning to purchase a property now during a high interest rate situation, right, I will probably consider a new launch compared to a resale. The reason is because new launch are most of the time based on progressive payment, which means that your funds from the bank are released to the developer at different stages of the development. So in this way, right, the high interest rate impact is actually spread out over that 3 to 4 years of construction, compared when you purchase a resale where your full loan is dispersed at the point you purchase that unit. So you feel that full impact of the interest rate.
Okay. That's interesting. I didn't know that. So what role does AI tech play in transforming the real estate market in Singapore?
If you ask me, I really love AI, right? Since AI was launched, I've been using it, whether for marketing purpose. It really helps me to be more efficient and helps me to also be more creative when I'm doing marketing write-ups for my clients' listings, things like that. And I think one example is basically I can actually show prospective buyers, right, the potential of what the unit will look like after renovation. And this can be done like that, right? Compared to previously, we need to engage a designer to do it. It probably might take a week. So I think it's really good to keep abreast with such technology. And I think it will really help not only real estate, but all other industries in the future.
So you don't look at it as a threat, but you look at it more as like something that's helpful, a helpful tool to you, basically.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful.
Okay, that's great. How can property owners maximize the value of their homes before selling?
How to maximize the value of home? Okay, I guess most of the time most people purchase things based on emotion. So if you see something really nice, right, I really want to buy this compared to something that doesn't look so good. So that's where I think simple things like decluttering your house, maybe a new coat of paint, create more space, or maybe just changing the lightings to something brighter. Simple things like that can actually affect the look of the property and gives a better emotion to the prospective buyer compared to a dull-looking unit. So this is one way to actually increase the value of your property.
What should buyers look for in a property to ensure it has good resale value in the future?
Good resale value. I would think two things. One is location. Purchase a property where there are upcoming developments or maybe near to good amenities like shopping malls, transportation, things like that, or even good schools. And the next thing would probably be buying a property with a good layout. I think most people, when they are buying a property, they would probably prefer something with a more efficient layout where you can maximize the space compared to an odd-shaped layout where there's a lot of wasted space. Yeah.
What are 3 deciding factors one should consider before deciding if they should sell or hold on to their property?
3 deciding factors. Okay, probably the first one would be market condition, whether it's a seller's market or buyer's market. So if you're a property owner, probably you want to sell during a seller's market. Next thing I would say, lifestyle change. Maybe you have a new family member. So you need to sell off your current property, purchase a bigger property, or maybe you are considering to slow down in life where you want to right size your property to a smaller unit. Yeah. And I think lastly would probably be financial situation change. Maybe you had recently had a promotion and you wanted to purchase a bigger property or change a different property asset class. Or maybe, like I said, you are preparing to retire and your property has already profited and you want to cash out. Yeah. So I think these are some of the things to consider.
What should potential buyers know about financing options?
Financing options. Okay, I think it's really good to understand what is available to you. There are so many options around. Whether you should choose a fixed rate, whether you should choose a floating rate, how long should you be locked in? Another thing is, let's say you intend to purchase a property but you need additional loan. What are your options available? So there are options like pledging, unpledging, things like that. And also if you need maybe a temporary loan. So some people, they go for this thing called a bridging loan. Since their sales proceed from a current place they're selling, is not able to come out in time to purchase another property. So these are the options available for financing a property. And these are some of the things which I usually share with my clients as well. So they know what's available to them and they can better decide which type of property to buy.
DIY versus an agent. Which one is better?
Okay, DIY versus agent. I would like to use an analogy of maybe driving a car. So I would say DIY is like maybe driving a car without a license. So ultimately, you still will be able to get from point A to point B, right? But whether you can get there in the quickest time or with a lot of obstacles in place, or how do you manage this obstacle, right? Compared to using an agent, maybe hiring a seasoned chauffeur. So this person will probably be able to guide you through, get you from point A to point B using the fastest route and with less obstacles in place. So the question is, why risk your biggest asset, right? By trying to do it yourself.
That's a good point. Can you explain the process and benefits of asset progression in real estate?
Okay, asset progression is basically upgrading property for strategic financial gain. So it can be, for example, upgrade in asset class. That means from HDB to a private condo or maybe to a landed. Or it can be upgrading to a better location. So maybe you're staying in the outskirts of Singapore, you want to move to somewhere more central. Yeah. Or else it could be maybe selling your current property and purchasing one to stay and one for investment. So these are the different asset progression that are available. So I think what's really important is to understand the current situation, what your current property is worth, what are your plans moving forward. Then based on that, we have to work out the financials and the options available. Then the next is to probably do the execution and to do the timeline planning. But I think what's really important is to do that continuous review. So if let's say you're buying a investment property, when is the right time to sell? When is the right time to exit? Or how much should you earn before you exit? So you need to have a proper plan in place. And I think that is really key.
What are some mistakes that you have seen Singaporeans do when it comes to asset progression?
What mistakes? I think not doing enough research is one. That means sometimes they say, oh, this is a new development at this particular seems really good, really cheap, and they'll just buy. So that is one, not doing enough research. Not planning their financials properly. Sometimes they over leverage and they buy two properties without considering the financial impact properly. So this gets them into sometimes a difficult situation. And I think lastly is, like I mentioned, not having a proper exit plan. Yeah, so not knowing when to sell your property is another thing they should consider. Yeah.
How do lifestyle changes affect decisions when it comes to property?
Lifestyle changes. I think lifestyle changes affect different types of property. So for example, ever since COVID, right, people have started doing a hybrid work kind of model. Yeah, so a lot of people start to work from home mostly instead of working from office. So based on this, it actually there's more demand for larger units. So people actually need their own personal space for them to have a conducive environment to do their work. Yeah, so I would say yes, lifestyle changes actually affect demand for certain property types.
Okay, this is an interesting question. How do government policies affect the real estate market, and what should buyers and sellers watch out for?
Government policies definitely affect the Singapore market. So for example, there are cooling measures, there are upcoming development plans, and there are maybe grants and schemes for HDB buyers. So all these things will affect different groups of people on whether you are eligible to buy a certain type of property or not. So I would say government policies are really something in Singapore that affects property market a lot. Yeah.
How does your clear and structured approach help clients achieve their real estate goals more effectively?
Okay, buying a property is not something you should always buy on a whim, right? There's a lot of planning involved. So I think having that clear and structured approach, right, I think it gives the person I'm working with the confidence to put their trust in me that I'll be there to hold their hand every step of the way, just to make sure there are no hiccups or surprises. Yeah, so you're spending so much money to purchase property, right? You just want to make sure it's safe and it's within your affordable budget. Yeah, so that moving forward, you don't have stress after you purchase that property. So I really feel that having that proper structure and step-by-step guide with someone to assist you is really important.
Can you share a personal success story where you helped a client move from a HDB to a private property?
HDB, private property, yes. There was actually this couple that I worked with in their early 30s. So when I met with them, their plan was to actually sell their HDB and to own two private properties. Yeah, one to stay and one for investment. So after understanding their plans, their goals, things like that, I actually gave them a few options. Then and what are the pros and cons of each option. So I think the first thing that they wanted to do was actually family planning. So the next property purchase they wanted to move in, they need at least 3 bedrooms. Yeah. So after working up their financials at that point of time, I actually advised them, maybe take a step at a time. You purchase your 3-bedroom condo first, then at a later stage consider that private property. I think this gave them less financial stress. Yeah. And give them more time to plan their finances when they are purchasing another property. So, but ultimately it didn't take too long. Within 4 years, they actually managed to purchase their investment property. Yeah. Wow. So I thought I really love working with them, and I'm really grateful that they put their trust in me. Yeah.
That's nice. Like, I think instead of like a regular real estate person would probably be happy to have like, 2 purchases at the same time. That's great for me. But instead you encourage them to go down one path first.
Yeah, so exactly. Because actually I'm looking at more long-term relationship, right? Not just sell today, I'm gone tomorrow.
Yeah. not just transactional relationships.
Correct.
Basically. What strategies do you use as a seller agent to ensure that your clients get the best price for their property being marketed by you?
What strategies will I use? I think basically the most important thing is to decide what is the right price for the property. I think we need to do a lot of research, lot of analysis on prices that are being transacted within the development or around the development. So identifying the right price and to actually showcase the true value of the property is really important. The next thing I would say is one of the ways is actually to stage up the property. Yeah, so declutter, how to make it look better, or maybe bringing in a certain set of furniture to just make the place look nicer. These are one of the marketing strategies that we use to bring up the value of the property. And I think the last thing would probably be a good negotiation strategy. Yeah, so when there are prospective buyers, how do we convince these buyers with the data we have that they are not overpaying the property? And ultimately, I like to do a transaction where both the buyer and seller are happy. Yeah, so I think these are some of the strategies that I work with to help the sellers sell at a better price.
How do you differentiate yourself in this real estate market? Because it's so competitive and there are so many real estate agents. How do you stand out?
So how I differentiate myself is, I think I like to provide a lot of data-driven analysis. So nowadays, data is everywhere, but how do we get the latest data or the right data to show the clients or the prospective buyers? Yeah, so I think this is really key. Should we depend on data that are 2 to 3 months old, or should we be using tools that can give us the latest data, which are maybe 2 to 3 weeks old? Yeah, this is really important. So based on all this data, we can actually come up with the right price or which are the right property to purchase for the person I'm working with. The next thing would probably be using of technology. Yeah, using of technology, like I mentioned, how do we actually improve the look of the current unit using technology? That is one way. Yeah. And I think the last way is probably, I like to provide a holistic approach. Yeah. So it's like you mentioned, it's not transactional, right? It's not just about buying and selling property, right? It's really about understanding the plans and helping my clients achieve their goals. Yeah. So that's how I differentiate myself.
What typically happens in a first consultation with you, and how does that differ from other property agents?
Okay, so what typically happens in the first consultation, I focus on 2 things: clarity and strategy. So clarity is really important, as what I've been mentioning. I really need to understand your plans, your goals, and what you want to achieve. And based on, once I have that understanding, right, I can actually come out with what are the options available and what are the pros and cons for each options. Then next, we'll probably work on the financials, which options actually meet your financial budget or not. Yeah. And then we can plan from there. Then after that, it's about execution, timeline planning. And yeah, so basically I think these are the key things, the most basic things that I do during the first consultation to really work out that plan for the client, so they have that confidence to move ahead with their plan and put their trust in me throughout that journey.
Where is the best place to get in touch with you and to learn from you?
The best place, you can actually contact me at this link below.
Okay. So we're done with all these questions. I have a fun question for you, my own question.
Sure.
Is it true that when something continuously bad happens in an estate, the value of the estate goes down? For example, Yishun.
I wouldn't say Yishun is a bad estate.
But I mean, like with all the, it's got the negative connotations to it. Anytime you mention it these days, people are like, oh, Yishun.
I think sometimes it's just a social media thing. So if you ask me, people like to just take a small thing and create a big thing out of it, right? Yes. Just to get attention.
Fair.
So I wouldn't say multiple things happening. I would say sometimes these things happen. It creates attention for the estate. Attention doesn't mean it's bad attention. It may be good attention as well.
True.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming on the GrowCast show today, Jonathan. Yeah. And thank you very much for listening. This was episode 55 with Jonathan Lim on the GrowCast show.
Thank you.